Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the worn leather shoes of someone who probably shouldn't be alive. You're a medieval plague survivor, yes, that kind of survivor. The kind who's watched entire villages go silent and lived to tell the tale, even if there's no one left to listen. You wake in a world that smells of smoke and sour hay, where your cough gets more attention than your prayers, and everything, from the bread to the breeze, seems to whisper the word, plague. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I'm always curious who's dozing off in Dublin or nodding off in Nairobi. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake to silence. That's the first thing you notice. Not birdsong, not shouting, not even the usual morning clatter of the baker across the alley knocking flour off his boots, just stillness, the kind that settles over everything like ash. Your mattress is stuffed with straw and one or two regrettable insects, and it creaks as you sit up. The air is stale. You're sweating, though it's cold. You rub your hands over your face and think, maybe it's just Sunday. But it's not Sunday. You hear no bells from the chapel, and your body aches in ways Sunday never brings. You shuffle to the window, a crude square of glass so grimy it's become a filter for reality. Outside, the street is empty, not just quiet, vacant. The butcher's stall is shuttered, his usual pile of sheep bones gone. The tailor's door hangs open, a spool of blue thread trailing into the gutter. Blue, the color of nobility, of Virgin Mary's robes, of bruises on dying skin. A sneeze cracks the quiet. You flinch. It's not yours. It came from somewhere below, another window, the alley. You wait. One beat, two, then the silence reclaims the moment. That's when you remember Marta, the baker's wife. She was coughing yesterday, wheezing as she handed you the last blackened loaf. You'd thanked her. She'd smiled, but not fully. Her eyes had looked strange, glassier than usual. A tickle stirs in your throat. You swallow hard. Your name is irrelevant for now. Names have become like candles. There were many, but most have melted away. What matters is that you're here, standing barefoot in your own house, trying to convince yourself you're not sick. You go through the morning motions, if only to pretend things are normal. You pull on your woolen tunic, still damp from yesterday's rain. You light a bit of tallow in the hearth, just enough to boil water. The fire takes its time, sullen and reluctant, as if it too knows what's coming. While waiting, you gnaw a corner of yesterday's bread. It's hard enough to injure a tooth, but the hunger gnaws back. You chew slowly, eyes flicking to the door. Your neighbor usually knocks by now. Old Ludwig. He's 70 if he's a day, and thinks plague is just God's excuse to reset the board, his words. He also believes onions cure all ills. Yesterday, he was stringing them over his windows like garlands. Today, no knocking. When you step outside, the town smells wrong, not rot exactly, not yet. It's a heavy, musty scent like wet wool and old blood. You wander down the street, ears alert for any sign of life. The market square, usually buzzing by now, looks abandoned mid-sentence. A single chicken pecks at a spilled basket of leeks. No owner in sight. You hear a low moan, not close, not far. It rises and falls like wind through reeds. You walk toward it. You shouldn't, but curiosity, even now, is louder than fear. The sound leads you to the apothecary's door. It's shut, but not locked. The smell inside hits you like a wall, vinegar, lavender, something far worse. You find him behind the counter, slumped over his mortar and pestle. His hands are stained with tincture and something darker. His eyes are open but glazed, and flies orbit his lips like tiny penitents. You step back, bump a shelf, and a bottle shatters. You freeze. From somewhere deeper inside, a voice croaks, "Leave." You do. You run. By noon you've counted 8 closed shops, 5 silent homes, 1 pair of shoes, small, child-sized, abandoned in the mud. Your town, your home is shrinking, or maybe you are. You pass the chapel, the doors are closed, bolted, a paper is nailed to the frame, mass suspended, pray where you fall. You do not enter. You don't yet know this, but the bells will not ring again, not this week, maybe not ever. At dusk, you return home. You light 2 candles and set them at opposite ends of the room, as if light can ward off illness. You cough, just once. You tell yourself it's the smoke. You wrap yourself in a blanket, tuck your feet close, and whisper a prayer you half remember. You fall asleep to silence. In your dream, you're dancing in a field of marigolds. Then, one by one, the flowers begin to cough. You wake before they die. You wake early, not because of any sound, but because the silence has become suspicious. In your world, quiet used to mean peace. Now it means something else. Absence, fear, aftershocks of the cough that wasn't yours. The fire's gone out in the hearth. You hadn't stoked it properly before bed. One of those little oversights that used to matter only in winter. Now it feels like a sign you're losing track of yourself. You sit still, wrapped in the same blanket as yesterday, trying to remember whether you dreamed about marigolds or real flowers. The details are fuzzy, like everything else lately. There's still no sign of Ludwig. You peer through the shutters and count empty windows. You half expect to see someone waving, someone brushing out rugs or shooing away chickens. But no, it's just pigeons today. Plump, clueless pigeons, cooing over rooftops as if they haven't noticed the shift in power dynamics. At mid-morning, you brave the walk to the town well. You carry a wooden bucket, lighter than it should be. Along the way, you pass what remains of a small shrine. The Virgin Mary is there, her face worn smooth by a century of prayers and rain. Someone has looped a strip of cloth around her shoulders like a shawl, probably someone's mother, hoping for mercy. The square around the well used to be the busiest part of town. Today, it looks like a battlefield, but without the drama. Just scattered belongings, 1 toppled stool, and a small trail of red dried blood, spilled wine. You don't investigate. You lower your bucket slowly. You listen. The well echoes like it always has, but something's different. A hum, maybe. A vibration that isn't quite sound. You pretend not to notice. You draw up the water. It sloshes over your wrists, cold, fresh, innocent. But as you hoist it, you hear it again, a cough, weak, to your left. You turn, breath caught. There's a man slumped beside the cooper's shed, partially hidden by a barrel. You didn't see him on the way in. His skin is pale and glossy, his eyes are open, darting, his lips move but no sound comes. You freeze. The bucket spills, forgotten. You don't remember walking home. Your legs bring you there while your mind stays behind, replaying the look in that man's eyes. Was he asking for help or warning you away? You wonder how long he'd been sitting there. You wonder if anyone else had passed and done the same thing you just did. Nothing. You bolt the door behind you, for the first time in weeks. You spend the next hour scrubbing your hands with ashes and water. The soap ran out last week. You rub your fingers until they sting. You whisper words that might be prayers or just apologies. You don't know anymore. And still, deep in your chest, that tickle lingers. By evening, the rumors have evolved. You hear them through the shutters, voices in the street, half urgent, half hysterical. Someone says it's the Jews. Someone else says it's the wind. A third insists it's the baker's yeast. He'd switched suppliers after all. You shake your head. You know better, or at least you think you do. The apothecary had taught you things once. Herbs, tinctures, the difference between real fever and fear. He'd shown you how mold on bread could make people act strange. He said the plague wasn't punishment. It was biology. He used that word like it meant something, something safer than God's wrath. But he's dead now. You decide to boil some thyme in water. It smells sharp, clean. You sip it slowly, willing yourself to believe. Night again. You're used to rats now. They scurry across beams, bold and casual. You no longer flinch. They're part of the house now, like smoke stains and old shoes. But tonight you hear something stranger. Voices at the well. You creep to the window. 3 figures, hooded, whispering. One holds a sack. It wriggles. You blink. Are they dumping bodies? Stealing water? Feeding something? You look away. You don't want to know. The next morning, the town smells different again. Not worse, not better. Just altered. You walk out, bucket in hand again. At the well, you see a note scrawled in chalk on the stones. Do not drink, death below. You turn around. You knock on Ludwig's door. No answer. You enter anyway. Inside it's dark and stuffy. The smell hits you first, onion, yes, but underneath it, rot. You find him in the back room, not dead, but not far. He's curled in a chair, wheezing through his nose. His face is red, mottled. His eyes flicker. Go, he rasps. You approach anyway. You touch his shoulder. He smiles. His mouth is bloody. There's a rag in his lap covered in black lumps, boils, buboes. One has burst. You stagger back. Don't worry, he says. I boiled the onions. You spend the next several hours cleaning your house, frantically, pointlessly. You burn old clothes. You wash the floors with vinegar. You grind dried lavender into pouches and stuff them into the rafters. You feel a little better. You light candles in every room. You write your name on a scrap of parchment and place it by the window, just in case someone's keeping count. You boil more thyme, you add mint, you sip. Your cough, when it comes again, sounds deeper. That night you dream of water, not the town well but rivers, wide ones, clean. You wade in and come out whole. When you wake, you're sweating again. But for a moment, you pretend it's just the blanket, just the heat, not the beginning. Your third morning begins like the last two, with that same stale blanket, the same tickle in your throat, and the same dreadful awareness that no one has come to check on you, not even the baker's son, who used to run through the alleys yelling about missing pies or dead cats or saints he didn't believe in. He'd been loud, he'd been alive, and now, your world has become whispers and shadows. You sit at the edge of your bed, elbows on knees, staring at your hands. They're dry from ash scrubbing, the skin cracked at the knuckles. You flex your fingers slowly. You wait. No trembling, not yet. There's a sound at the door. Not a knock, a thud, followed by something soft dragging across wood. You don't move. Another thud. You rise, heart beating in your ears, and inch toward the door. You press your ear against the frame. Nothing. Then a faint cough. You lift the latch slowly, push the door open just a crack. And there he is. A man, or what's left of one, collapsed on your doorstep, back against the wall, head tilted sideways like a broken doll. He's wearing the strangest outfit, a long dark robe stiff with grime and wear, a thick belt, and on his face, a mask. Long and beaked, with glass lenses where his eyes should be, the infamous costume of the plague doctor. You've heard of them, of course, everyone has. Grim angels with birds' heads, peddlers of herbs and hope, supposed to bring relief, or at least explanation. You stare at the mask, its beak curved downward, packed with aromatic herbs, or so the rumors say, to protect them, not you. He groans. You step outside and crouch beside him. He grips your wrist. His fingers are ice. His voice rasps through the beak like wind in a flute. Shelter. You nod. You help him inside. You pull the mask off gently. He resists at first, but he's too weak to stop you. Underneath, his face is young, pale, freckled. His eyes are bloodshot, lips cracked. His breath smells of wine, cloves, and something coppery. Name, you ask? He chuckles hoarsely, Birdman. You roll your eyes, real name? He shrugs. So he's Birdman now. You lay him on the straw mattress, you give him time water, he grimaces but drinks. You ask what he's doing here, where he came from. He tells you he was in Bruges, or maybe Ghent, it's hard to tell through the coughs, cities blur when the dead pile high. He says he came here to help, to observe, to document the spread. You ask if he's a real doctor. He stares at the ceiling, close enough. You take his leather bag, it smells like mold and regret. Inside, dried herbs, a tiny vial of mercury, scraps of cloth soaked in vinegar, a handwritten list of symptoms you can barely read, and a book titled Miasma and Mice, on the airborne nature of disease. You leaf through it, diagrams, notes, some scribbled in Latin, some in barely legible Dutch, some in drawings. One sketch shows a man sneezing on a pig. You stare at it longer than you should. Birdman coughs again. It's wet, rattling. You hand him more water. He mutters something about flea bites and divine justice. You nod, as if that explains anything. The next few days blur. You tend to him. Not out of kindness, well, maybe a little, but mostly because he's someone to talk to, someone who hasn't died yet. You hang wet cloth over the windows. You boil whatever herbs he suggests. You wear a scarf over your nose and mouth like you're in on some shared performance. Birdman tells you about other towns. He says Florence burned half its homes. Paris fled to the hills. In one village, the mayor locked the gates and set fire to anyone who tried to leave. Effective, he croaks. Horrifying, you reply. He shrugs. One afternoon, he takes your hand. His touch is cooler now. You'll need to boil the mask, he whispers. After. After what? He doesn't answer. At dusk, the town begins to smell different, again. Now it's unmistakably death. A sweet cloying rot that coats your nostrils. It clings to your clothes, your hair. You dream of it. Birdman slips in and out of fever. He talks nonsense mostly, names of herbs, places, faces. Sometimes he whispers, don't open the barrels, you don't ask. He says something once about cats being blamed. Killed all of them, thought they were demons, he coughs. Then the rats came. You think of Mercy, the little gray cat that still patrols the alley. You hope she's smarter than humans. One night, you wake to find him standing. Just standing, mask back on, staring out the window. Birdman? He doesn't move. You approach. He turns slowly. The sky's too quiet, he says, not enough prayers. You nod. He lies back down. 3 mornings later, he dies. Not dramatically, not with a scream or a gasp, just stillness. You find him that way, arms folded over his chest, the mask in his lap. You stare at him for a long time. Then you take the book, the herbs, the mask. And you boil the water. And you wait. You spend the entire morning burning things. Not for warmth, not for cleanliness, just to do something, to make the air smell like fire instead of fear. You burn Birdman's robe. You burn his notes, except the one about sneezing pigs. You tuck that into the corner of the hearth for later. You even burn the mattress, dragging it outside with a cloth over your face, as if this ritual, this act of purification, can protect you. The mask you keep. You hang it on the wall like a talisman or a dare. That night, you sleep on the floor. The days stretch, but they no longer feel like days. Time has lost its backbone. You wake, eat something bland, listen for noises that never come, and make tea from whatever herbs aren't moldy. Sometimes you hum. Sometimes you talk to Mercy, who's started showing up again, slipping in through the cracked window like she owns the place. She brings you gifts, feathers, a tiny dead bird, once what looked like a very small rat's paw. You thank her each time. She's the only one still delivering anything. You realize the candles are running low. You count. 4 whole ones, 2 broken nubs, and a stub you're not entirely sure isn't just wax-covered cheese. You need supplies, which means going back out. You wrap a scarf around your mouth. You take Birdman's bag lighter now, but still smelling of vinegar and ghostly hopes. You sling it over your shoulder. You take the mask. You don't wear it, but you do place it gently in the bag, just in case. The marketplace is worse. Empty, yes, but not in the serene, post-feast sort of way. This is abandonment. Pots left mid-simmer, a boot with a sock still in it, a goat tied to a post long dead, flies thick around its eyes. You don't breathe deeply. You reach the apothecary's shop, still shut, still stained. But you know the door is weak, one firm shoulder, and you're in. Inside it's like stepping into a reliquary for lost hopes. The smell hits first: lavender, death, dust. Shelves sag with jars, some intact, some broken. A dried-up orange still sits on the counter, fossilized. You take what you can: fennel, dried poppy, several corked bottles of something amber that smells like licorice and doom. You find a small wooden cross in a drawer and keep it, even though you're not especially religious. You also find a note, hastily scrawled on parchment. If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. Burn everything, especially the green jar. You don't find a green jar. You decide not to look too hard. Next stop, the candle shop. The door is open. A good sign? No, never is. Inside, wax has melted everywhere. The room looks like it wept and froze mid-sob. A handprint in hardened beeswax stretches across the counter. You find a small stash under the floorboard. 6 stubby tapers, 3 thick columns, 1 blue candle shaped like a chicken. You take them all. You light the chicken candle as a joke. It burns better than expected. You pass the chapel on your way back. Still closed, still quiet. But this time, there's someone there. A man in tattered priest robes sits on the steps, muttering. You pause. He looks up. His eyes are wild. His face is sunburned in strange patches, as if God's light had been trying to erase him. Repent, he says weakly. You tilt your head. Everyone? You ask. He nods, then shrugs, probably. You offer him thyme water. He drinks. Then he throws it up. Where is everyone? You ask. He smiles in a way that makes you wish you hadn't. Gone to meet the Lord, he says, or hiding under floorboards. Either way, not my parish anymore. He asks your name. You don't give it. Instead, you ask his. Father Jorik, he says. You sit beside him for a while. He sings something under his breath, something that might have once been holy. Eventually, you leave him there, still singing. Back home, you light a real candle this time, one of the thick ones. You want light, you want solidity. Mercy circles your feet, meows once, then curls up beside the hearth. You sip something warm. You think about Father Jorik and his patchy sunburn, about Birdman and his drawings, about Ludwig and his onions. You wonder who you'll talk to next, and who you'll bury. That night, thunder wakes you. Rain follows, hard and steady. You watch it from the window. It cleans nothing. You think about the well water, and the red chalk, and the man who whispered, "Shelter." You think maybe it's time to leave. But leave where? You dream of open fields, yellow ones. You walk barefoot. In the distance, a cart approaches, rattling over stones. You wave. It doesn't stop. It's full of bodies. And no one's driving. You wake. And it's still raining. By morning, the rain has stopped, but the silence remains heavier than ever, not just quiet smothering, the kind of hush that settles in after a scream, after a storm, after a truth you can't unknow. You eat stale barley bread, slowly, as if chewing time itself. You boil more herbs you barely remember the names of. You wonder if Birdman made half of them up. Mercy hasn't returned. That bothers you more than you expect. You open the window a crack. The world still exists, apparently. The street is a puddle-swollen reflection of your empty town. Everything looks like it's sinking. You decide to go somewhere you've been avoiding. The chapel door is no longer locked. It hangs open, just slightly ajar, creaking in the breeze, like it's been waiting for you, or like someone else forgot to close it. You step inside. The smell hits first incense and mildew, and something older, layers of sorrow soaked into stone. There are no candles lit, but light seeps through the high, narrow windows, striping the floor like spilled gold. You tread carefully, instinctively quiet. Even now, you whisper your steps. At the front, near the altar, is a pile of blankets. A person? You approach. Father Jorik, still singing. His voice is thin now, raspy, more air than tone. He doesn't look at you, just keeps repeating a line you don't recognize, something about feathers and mercy and don't let them hear me breathe. You kneel beside him. He stops singing. Have you come to confess? He asks. You think about it. Then you shake your head. He nods. Good, I've heard too much already. He clutches a wooden cross to his chest, but it's missing the figure, just bare wood. The saints stopped listening, he whispers. Too many names, too many holes. You don't ask what he means. You don't want to know what he's seen. You sit in the chapel for hours. You listen to the rain begin again, soft this time, a hushed accompaniment to a city's grief. You light a candle, just one, and place it near the altar. Not for the dead. For the ones trying not to be. As you leave, Father Jorik calls out, not loudly. There's a cellar. You stop. Behind the choir pit, he mutters. They locked them down there, the ones they didn't want seen. Your stomach tightens. How many? He doesn't answer. You find the cellar door, just as he said. Wooden, thick, bound in iron. It's barred shut from the outside. You stare at it a long time. There's no sound from within, but a smell leaks through the cracks. Not rot, not quite. Just the memory of too many breaths in one place. You lift the bar. It creaks. You hesitate. You lower it again. Not today. Back home, you find Mercy waiting on the windowsill. She's wet, muddy, unapologetic. She saunters in, shakes herself off, and leaps into your lap. You let her. You spend the evening reading Birdman's book. Most of it is nonsense, observations scribbled sideways in the margins, drawings of pustules with poetic captions, notes like, look into the eel cure, and remember to ask monks about vinegar stones. But some entries are personal. Observed subject in Bruges survived 2 weeks with garlic poultice, died of hunger. Child in Paris immune, possible miracle, or misdiagnosed rash. The rats are the priests now. Everyone confesses to them, willingly. You close the book. You begin writing in the back pages. You write your name, then the date, then a list of symptoms, none of which you have yet. You draw a small candle, you label it hope. You draw a rat beside it, uninvited guest. You laugh once quietly. You surprise yourself. That night you sleep in the bird mask. Not for protection, for company. You dream of Mercy sitting on a throne of bones, wearing a tiny crown made of onion skins. She meows once and declares a curfew. You obey without question. The bells do not ring this morning. You knew they wouldn't. They haven't in days, but the silence now feels heavier, as though the town has forgotten how sound works, as if the very concept of bells, joyful or mournful, has been erased along with most of the population. You sit by the window, mask on the table beside you, watching the street, A breeze nudges a scrap of parchment across the cobblestones. It flutters like it still has somewhere to go. You do not. Across the alley, the tailor's sign finally falls. It had been hanging by one rusted hinge for a week. You'd watched it sway, predicting the exact moment of its collapse like it was a sport. You were wrong by 2 days. The wooden plank hits the ground with a soft thud. It is the only sound you'll hear until nightfall. At midday, you venture out, wrapped in your scarf, mask tucked into the satchel but still not worn. You carry a small wooden stick now, not for defense, just for poking things you'd rather not touch directly. Today's goal: to find candles, bread, and a reason to keep doing this. You pass the butcher's. The smell has changed. A week ago, it was blood and bone and fly swarm. Now it's just decay. Old decay, the kind that sinks into the wood and becomes permanent. You pause at the threshold, consider going in for salt or preserved meat, then change your mind. There's a note scratched into the door, closed for eternity, praise be. You nod, respectfully. You move on. You find yourself near the bell tower. It's taller than you remember. Or maybe you're shorter now, shrunk by days of crouching, shivering, avoiding. The door at its base is open. Curiosity, ever the worst trait to have during a plague, drags you inside. The stairs are narrow and steep, and the air smells of bird droppings and rust. You ascend slowly, one hand on the wall, the other gripping your stick. About halfway up, you pause. There's a sound. Not a voice, not footsteps. Just humming. You climb faster. At the top, you find her. A girl, maybe 16, sitting cross-legged beside the bell. She wears a garland of dried flowers on her head and a cloak made from stitched-together curtains. She's humming something tuneless and ancient and drawing on the wooden floor with chalk, circles, stars, rats with wings. She looks up when you approach. "Hello," she says, as if this is all perfectly normal. You blink. She pats the space beside her. You sit. She offers you a dried fig. You decline. "You live here?" you ask. She nods. "It's the highest point. The plague can't climb stairs." You don't argue. "What about food?" you ask. She gestures to a pile. Biscuits, apples, a bottle of wine, several odd tins you can't identify. "From the baker's attic," she says. "I knew a boy." You don't ask more. She hums again. "I ring the bell sometimes," she adds, "when I think someone needs it." You glance at the rope. It's frayed, old. She shrugs. "Not today." You leave before dark. She doesn't follow. As you descend, you hear her humming fade, replaced by the faint clang of metal just once, a gentle, uncertain toll. Maybe it's for you. Maybe it's not. That night, you write again in Birdman's book. You draw a girl with curtain robes and a fig in her hand. You write, "Bell ringer of no one, voice of everyone." You feel something like peace, not hope, don't be foolish, but calm. You light a candle. You do not speak. You listen. Still no bells. But that's okay. You heard one today. Your stomach makes a decision for you the next morning. It's not a growl, it's a verdict, an ultimatum, a clear message that stale barley bread, watery herbs, and dried fig rations are no longer cutting it. So you set out on a new mission: food, real food, something that at least pretends to nourish. You tie your scarf, shoulder Birdman's satchel, and tuck Mercy inside your cloak. She protests for a full block before giving in, a small grumble pressed against your ribs. You head toward the edge of town where the fields used to bloom and the woods begin, where the air is cleaner, if only by comparison. But first, you detour. Marta's bakery still stands. The windows are soot-streaked. The front door is locked. You go around back. The kitchen smells like char and ash and something older. You find a few burnt loaves, 1/2 jar of honey hardened into a sugar crystal, and, miraculously, a sack of dried lentils. You whisper a prayer of thanks to Marta, wherever she may be, and move on. Outside the bakery, you pass the old herbalist's garden, or what's left of it. What used to be neat rows of chamomile and sage is now a tangle of weeds and defiant green shoots. Some are edible, some you're not sure. You crouch and sniff, pluck cautiously, remembering Birdman's scribbles. Mint equals good, nettle equals better, yellow mold equals don't. You gather what you can: dandelion leaves, chickweed, a handful of wild garlic bulbs. You smile. You are against all odds going to make plague soup. You reach the stream past the granary. The water flows slow but clear, cutting a thin silver line through the brown grass. You kneel, splash your face, drink cautiously. No red chalk warnings here. You scan the trees, no one, nothing. But there's a sound, a snuffling. Mercy stiffens under your cloak. You turn slowly. It's a pig. Just one, muddy, wide-eyed, standing in the ruins of what was probably once a fence. It looks at you. You look at it. Neither of you runs. Then, absurdly, the pig trots toward you. You offer a leaf of garlic. It eats it like it was born to. You stand there for several long moments, feeding it your foraged greens. You name it Soup, quietly, without telling Mercy. You guide Soup back to town. Or rather, it follows, trotting after you like a confused, rotund dog. You pass the outskirts and pause at an abandoned house. The door is ajar. You peer inside. Dust, cobwebs, but no smell of rot. You decide it's your new pantry. You tie Soup to a beam inside with a bit of old rope and leave a pile of weeds nearby. Mercy perches on a shelf, glaring at the pig like it's personally offended her. You tell them to get along. They don't. But you leave them anyway. Back home, you set the lentils boiling. You crush garlic with a stone. You sprinkle in herbs you're 80% sure won't kill you. The smell is promising. You take Birdman's book, flip to a fresh page, and draw Soup, round and regal, wearing a laurel crown. Caption: Provider, prophet, not yet dinner. That night, you eat warm food for the first time in weeks. Your hands stop shaking halfway through the bowl. You almost cry. Almost. But Mercy hisses at Soup snoring from across the alley, and you laugh instead. You sleep deeply. You dream of a feast in a ruined hall, silver platters, roasted roots, wine that refills itself. At the head of the table sits Soup, wearing a crown and sipping from a chalice. He nods at you. You wake smiling. Not everything good has to make sense. You're brushing soot from your only halfway clean tunic when you hear it. Scratching. Not the usual rat scurrying or wind rattling. This is slower, more deliberate, like someone or something is tracing their fingers along the inside of your wall. Mercy bolts upright, tail puffed like a bottle brush. She lets out a sharp, offended yowl and leaps onto the rafter. You freeze, ladle in hand. The sound comes again, from behind the hearth. You kneel, press your ear to the stones. Yes, definitely something alive. Now, to be fair, this isn't your first mystery scratching. Medieval homes are practically made of creaks and vermin. But this feels different, not random. Not the mindless skitter of claws. It feels like communication. Or possibly plague-induced paranoia. You fetch your stick. You tap once on the stone. A pause. Then scratch, scratch, scratch. You blink. You knock twice more. Scratch, pause, scratch. You sit back, unnerved. Mercy growls, an actual growl, low and unfamiliar. You wait. Then you knock the pattern for L from old monastery cipher games, just for fun. The wall replies with a completely incorrect sequence. You decide it's not a monk. Eventually, curiosity wins. You fetch a lantern, clear the hearth, and pry away a loose brick. Behind it, darkness. You widen the hole. Dust pours out, choking and ancient. And then, eyes. Small, human. Blinking. A hand reaches through. You scream, quietly. Then you help pull the rest of them out. She's maybe 10, filthy, wearing a dress several sizes too small, layered under a hood made from what looks like potato sacking. She blinks in the sudden light, sniffs once, then immediately reaches for the pot of lentils simmering nearby. You let her eat. She doesn't speak for a while. Just eats and eats. Then she says, "Is it over?" You don't know what she means. So you just shrug. She nods like that's a fair answer. Her name, eventually, is Elska. She'd been hiding in the crawl space since the second week of the sickness. Her mother shoved her in there and told her not to come out until someone nice came knocking. I wasn't sure you were nice, she admits, but I got hungry. You ask how long she was in there. 4 candles, she says, then adds, but 2 were short. You let her bathe. You find her clean clothes, one of Birdman's old tunics, belted awkwardly. She twirls once, then declares herself a plague knight. You dub her with your stick. Mercy is unimpressed. Elska is quick. Within the hour, she's rearranged your supplies, started a fire properly, and recited a memorized prayer that somehow involves goats, rain, and Saint Sebastian. She insists on sleeping under the table, claiming it's where the safest dreams live. You let her. You write about her in Birdman's book. You sketch her poking out of a wall like a mole, captioned, "Wall Child, bringer of lentil chaos." In the morning, she's gone. You panic. But only for a minute. You find her in the alley, feeding Soup a bruised apple. She needed exercise, she explains. Mercy glares from the rooftop like she's planning a coup. Later, Elska finds something in the crawlspace she'd missed. A box. Inside, 3 dried apples, a tin whistle, and a note from her mother. It says only, "If you make it out, find music." You both sit quietly with that. Elska plays the whistle that night, just a few notes, warbly and off-key. You hum along. Mercy sighs audibly. The scratching doesn't come back. But you start tapping the hearth each morning anyway. Just in case. You're sorting herbs. Well, herbs is generous, most of them are twigs with ambition, when the sound of wheels interrupts your quiet routine. Not the clatter of a farmer's cart or the slow creak of a funeral wagon. No, this is sharper, smoother, leather on wood, something carefully oiled and freshly used. Elska runs to the window. Mercy's already there, tail flicking. You follow. In the street below, a caravan. 3 wagons, painted sides, bright colors dulled by dust but unmistakably foreign. The kind of caravan that sells spices you can't pronounce and jewelry that smells like another country. On the lead wagon, a man in a wide-brimmed hat raises a hand. Not in greeting, more like warning. Then the procession halts. You don't move at first. Neither does anyone else. You're not even sure who's left to notice. Then Elska disappears. You hear the door creak and shout, but too late. By the time you reach the stoop, she's halfway down the street, waving her arms like a windmill possessed. "Hello," she yells, "are you merchants or ghosts?" There's a pause. Then the man in the hat calls back, "Both, if we must be." You sigh, grab the mask, and follow. The caravan isn't plague-proof, just plague-weary. They've been through 3 towns, lost 2 men, and traded more rumors than goods. The man with the hat introduces himself as Marinus. His companions, Leif, who drives the middle wagon and rarely speaks, and Anka, who handles herbs and fortune-telling. They're not doctors, they insist. But they carry garlic by the sackful and enough vinegar-soaked cloths to smother a cathedral. Elska asks if they've seen any dragons. Marinus answers with alarming sincerity, only once, and we promised not to tell where. They let you browse. Not many customers these days. You find dried peaches, rough wool, soap, actual soap, and a scroll written in a language that might be real. You trade a bundle of thyme and one of Birdman's vials for a small bottle of something amber. What is it, you ask? Anka shrugs, depends who drinks it. You pocket it anyway. Elska barters for a carved wooden horse, then names it Disease Killer. Mercy sniffs the wagon wheels with grave suspicion. You ask Marinus why they came here. He shrugs, maps are useless now, all roads lead to silence. You nod, that sounds about right. He leans in, we heard this town had a survivor. You blink. He means you. You feel strangely exposed, like you've been named without consent. Not just one, you say, we're a few. His eyes gleam, then this place still has a pulse. He pauses, then adds, careful not to spend it all in one place. That night, they camp near the square. You don't invite them in, they don't ask. You exchange stories across the cobbled divide, voices carrying in the windless night. Leif sings something low and sad in a language Elska pretends to understand. Marinus juggles apples. Anka reads a poem that isn't hers. Elska dances with Mercy, who tolerates it for about 40 seconds. Then silence again. Before dawn, the wagons roll out. No fanfare, no goodbyes. Just the faint sound of hooves and wheels, and one whispered, farewell, Disease Killer, from Marinus to the wooden horse perched in Elska's windowsill. You write about them that morning. A sketch of the caravan, a diagram of Mercy's suspected opinions, a bottle labeled ambiguous elixir. Side effects include wondering. You close the book and look outside. Nothing but empty street, and the faint smell of cinnamon. Later that day, you find a single coin on the stoop. Not local, stamped with a lizard and a sunburst. Elska insists it's a sign. You suspect it's a joke. Either way, you keep it. You drink the amber elixir that night. It tastes like honey, dust, and very old apples. You sleep deeply, and dream of roads. Open ones. Winding forever. The rain returns that night with a whisper, not a roar. It slides down the walls and taps on the shutters like a visitor who isn't quite sure they're welcome. You lie awake listening to it, counting the seconds between drops, like you're timing a heartbeat. Elska snores softly under the table. Mercy has stolen your pillow. You don't argue. By morning, the world has gone gray again, soaked, soggy, but oddly clean. You pull on your dampest dry boots and step outside, expecting the usual. Puddles, broken crates, the scent of something recently unfortunate. Instead, you find a scroll nailed to the bakery door. Big letters, flour smudged, definitely not Marta's handwriting. It reads, the girl who cannot die, she's real, she's here. You tilt your head. Elska reads it over your shoulder and frowns. Is it about me? You pat her hair, only if you've been holding out. She crosses her arms. I might be a little immortal. You nod, we'll write that down. The town, it seems, has a new obsession. Not survival. Not soup. But stories. Rumors, specifically, of a barefoot girl with a bloodless touch, immune to the plague, who never sneezes and speaks in riddles. You suspect it's based on the Fig Girl from the bell tower. You also suspect she started it herself. You see her again 2 days later. Same place, Bell tower, same chalked stars and pigeon companions. She grins as you climb. I heard you met the merchants, she says. You nod. I heard you made soup. Technically, you reply, it was more of a wet intention. She laughs. You sit beside her. You ask if she's the one in the scroll. She shrugs, might be. You wait. She sighs. I told someone I hadn't sneezed since Easter. They asked if I was cursed. I said probably. She tosses you a fig. Now I'm a legend. You chew thoughtfully. Do legends get hungry? All the time. You trade stories. She tells you about a man who tried to outdrink the plague. He lasted 6 days, smiled the whole time. You tell her about soup, Elska's wooden horse, and the coin with the lizard. She draws a lizard with wings beside a rat. If they team up, she says, we're all doomed. You both laugh. It feels good. On your way down, you find a new message on the bell tower steps. She walks the alleys, fearless, follow if you dare. You roll your eyes. You take the chalk and write, she prefers figs, also soup. Back home, Elska is designing a banner. It reads Plague-Free Club, apply with gloves. She hangs it upside down. Mercy bites it. That evening, someone knocks. Not a scrape, not a thud. A proper knock. 3 measured taps. You open the door, slowly. It's a man, mid-30s, clean-shaven somehow, his coat is buttoned, he has boots that match. He looks like a memory. Are you the one with soup? He asks. You nod. He smiles, then I think I'm home. His name is Tomas. He left the city when the bodies outnumbered the beds, walked for days, slept in barns, followed smoke. He says he heard about a town where a girl couldn't die, where candles still burned, where someone rang a bell. You let him in. Elska offers him a carrot. Mercy bites his boot. You write his name down. You don't ask him to prove anything. You don't need to. That night you sit together, 3 humans, 1 suspicious cat, a pig in a borrowed stable. You eat lentils, you share figs. You don't talk about the cough, or the bells, or the locked cellar. You talk about carrots, and ink, and bread that isn't quite terrible. You fall asleep with a full stomach, and wake to someone whistling. It's off-key. It's perfect. You wake up with sunlight on your face. Not just a little sliver through the shutters. Full, unapologetic beams of gold, slicing through the window like divine butter. It takes you a moment to remember what this even means. Light used to be for working, praying, waiting in lines. Now it just feels odd, suspiciously cheerful. Elska is already up, dragging Mercy around the room in a wheeled basket. Mercy, for once, has given up resisting. She stares at you with the dead-eyed expression of a cat who's seen too much and signed a non-disclosure agreement. Tomas is out front polishing something. A buckle, a hope. You step into the street barefoot. You shouldn't. You know better. But the cobbles are warm. It's one of those days that feels like it was borrowed from a better year. Everything smells of earth and wood smoke, and for once, not death. The wind carries birdsong from somewhere. You'd forgotten birds even made noises that weren't screams. Tomas waves. He's set up a little work table in the square, just a plank over 2 barrels. He's sharpening tools, axes mostly, and a knife so blunt it might qualify as performance art. He offers to sharpen your stick. You decline politely. Elska comes out with a list of chores written in red chalk. It includes such gems as: check if the sky is still there. Water soup, ask if she wants garlic. Make Mercy a crown or tiara, TBD. You agree to tackle task 1. You lie in the grass behind the chapel and look up. The sky, against all odds, is very much still there. Blue, wide, empty of omens. You wonder when you stopped being afraid of the devil. He was a big deal before all this, lurking in temptations, slipping coins to gamblers, sneezing in cathedrals. Now, he's background noise. The real fear is smaller, quieter. It's your own cough in the middle of the night, the sound of 3 knocks when you expect 2, the way you can't remember your sister's laugh. You wonder if anyone prays for the devil now. He must be lonely too. Tomas finds you near dusk, still staring at the sky. He sits beside you, says nothing for a while. Then, out of nowhere, I saw a priest once try to bless a well with wine. You raise an eyebrow. Was it holy wine? He shrugs. It was strong. That's all that mattered. You both laugh. Then he says, I'm not really a blacksmith. You nod. I worked in a bakery, sharpened knives sometimes, that's it. You pat his shoulder. He adds, I lied because I wanted to be useful. You tell him, Soup's not a real doctor either. That makes him grin. That night, Elska insists on hosting a feast. She drags the table outside. Tomas brings a loaf that is more brick than bread. You contribute the last of the fig stash. Mercy brings a dead vole. She is not invited. You light a candle in the middle of the table. You toast, to whoever survives the longest, tell good stories about the rest of us. Elska says, I'll lie extravagantly. Tomas raises his cup to the plague-free club. You clink with the sound of clay and hope. Afterward, you lie on the cobblestones. No one moves for a while. Then Tomas says, You ever think this is it? You ask, what life? He nods. Just this, soup and sky and stale bread. You consider it. Then you say, if it is, we've had worse. You all fall silent. The stars blink above like they've been waiting for someone to notice. You almost say thank you. But you don't. You just lie there, breathing. And not fearing the devil. Not tonight. The bread you saved from last night is no softer in the morning. But Elska claims it's good for jaw training, which sounds like something she made up and is entirely correct. Tomas is already sharpening again. He says it keeps him calm. You suspect he's trying to recreate a life he barely lived before this, before all of you. Mercy sits atop the rafter watching. She started blinking slowly at Tomas, which you interpret as high praise. Soup grunts audibly from her corner of the alley. Everything somehow feels functional, which is always a trap. By mid-morning, Elska's climbing the bakery ruins like it's a playground. You're reboiling your herb mix, adding the last of your wild garlic and a questionable sprig of something that might be thyme or might be floor debris. Then you hear the singing. Not Elska. Not Tomas. A different voice. High light female. It's not close, but it echoes. You glance toward the chapel. No one there. You step outside, heart doing a little stumble of surprise. The singing continues, drifting down from somewhere higher. The bell tower. Of course. You find her standing just outside the top window, on a precarious ledge, like she's balancing on the edge of the sky, arms out, face lifted, her robe flaps in the wind. She's singing in a language you don't know. It might be Latin. It might be made up. She stops when she sees you. Lovely day to tempt fate, you say. She shrugs. It's only fate if someone's watching. You hold out a hand. I'm watching. She smiles, climbs back inside. You sit in the dusty chamber beside the bell. She shares dried plums and a very small flask of something that tastes like regret. You ask her if she's afraid. She says, not anymore. There's no one left to disappoint. You say, that's bleak. She says, that's accurate. You nod. The silence between you is comfortable. She finally says, "They say I can't die." You ask, "Is it true?" She shrugs, "Maybe." Then, "But you'd be surprised how little that helps." You ask her name. She says, "It's not important." You say, "I'll call you Belle." She considers, "Fine, but only if you're Candle." You agree. She smirks, and Tomas is clearly Brick. Elska, Storm, and Mercy. Unforgiven. You laugh so hard you nearly knock over the flask. She gives you a small cloth pouch before you go, "For the fevers," she says, "if they come." You ask what's inside. "Hope and mint," she replies. You put it in your satchel, next to the coin and Birdman's book. Back home, Elska has painted her banner with onion juice. It now reads, "Still not dead, apply within." Tomas is fixing the shutter. He doesn't look at you, just says, "Did you find her?" You nod. She's still flying. Only internally. He grins. That evening, Belle comes down. She doesn't stay long, just walks the square once, touches the old well, leaves a fig on the chapel steps. Elska watches her like she's royalty. Tomas nods once. Mercy hisses, of course. Then Belle leaves again, back to her perch, her songs, her view of the plague-scarred rooftops. Later, you find a scrap of parchment tucked in Birdman's book. Not your handwriting. It reads, "If I can't die, maybe I'll sing instead." You stare at it for a while. Then you draw a girl on a ledge, arms wide, the wind beneath her. Caption: Belle, defier of gravity, advocate of figs. You sleep with the window open, and a pouch of mint by your bed. It's one of those days where the sun rises, reluctantly, like it's unsure the town deserves it. You wake up tangled in the blanket, your foot numb, your back sore. Mercy is asleep on your chest like a judgmental stone. Tomas is already outside, poking at a makeshift hinge he's building from a soup spoon and too much ambition. Elska is nowhere to be seen. Then you spot her. She's at the chapel, kneeling not in prayer but in focus, writing. On parchment? No. On the stone steps. With charcoal. You walk over, half asleep. She's writing a letter. To no one. Who's it for? You ask quietly. She shrugs, doesn't matter. You read a few lines. The house is still quiet. Soup ate my apple. Mercy bit Tomas again. I think Candle misses the bells. You ask if she's going to send it. She shakes her head. Nowhere left to send things, but I want someone to know. To know what? She looks up, that we're still here. You get it. Suddenly, deeply. You've been surviving so hard, you haven't recorded any of it, except in Birdman's book, and even that feels like a whisper into the void. So you go home, and write your own letter. You find a scrap of old parchment, not clean, not straight, but blank. You write, "If this is found, we lived. We boiled herbs and named a pig soup. We danced in the alley with a cat who hates everyone. We ate figs and feared nothing briefly. We were never brave, only bored of being scared." You fold it. Tuck it into Birdman's book. Place it under your pillow, just in case you don't wake up one day. That afternoon, it rains again. A soft drizzle, apologetic. Tomas tries to build a gutter from roof tiles, and fails with dignity. Elska makes Mercy a raincoat from cabbage leaves. You write a second letter. This time, to yourself. It says, "You did not expect to get this far, so do something strange with the time, like eat a whole onion, or forgive a memory, or whistle with mud in your boots." You sign it Plague Night First Class. Mercy steps on it immediately, which you interpret as approval. At twilight, you find Belle in the bell tower again. She's folding tiny papers into birds, flicking them into the wind. You join her. You fold one too, a little lopsided. You write on it, "We did not go quietly." You let it go. The wind carries it toward the chapel. That night, you all sit by the fire. Tomas shares a story about his brother stealing a goose and blaming it on Saint Anthony. Elska pretends to be a scholar and translates Soup's snorts into philosophical advice. Mercy falls asleep with one paw touching your ankle. No one coughs. You don't know if you'll be here tomorrow. But tonight, you write one last letter. It says only, "We mattered, even if no one reads this." And you tuck it into the hearth, just above the flame, where smoke can carry it skyward. The water has turned. You notice it first when you rinse a cloth in your usual pot. The smell hits you like a broken oath, sharp, metallic, with a backnote of something sourer than rot. You pour it out immediately. The grass sizzles where it lands. Elska sniffs the empty pot. "I think it's haunted." Tomas suggests checking the source. You all stare toward the well. No one moves. You draw straws. You rig the straws. Tomas ends up going. He takes a torch, your scarf, and a look that says he regrets all past kindness. You and Elska trail him at a cautious distance. Mercy brings up the rear like a disapproving aunt. The well looks the same. Same stone lip, same half-erased chalk warnings, same creaky bucket hanging on a fraying rope. Tomas lowers the bucket, slowly. The pulley wheezes, like it's about to reveal a long-buried secret. He pulls it back up. You all peer inside. The water is black. Not dark black, thick, sludgy. A single white feather floats on top. Elska whispers, "Nope." Mercy hisses. Tomas backs away, wiping his hands on your scarf. "No more water from here," he says. You agree. Back at the house, you do inventory. 3 apples, half a jar of honey, 2 vials of rainwater Belle gave you, just in case the world leaks. You check the apothecary's old stash, 1 bottle of vinegar, 1 pouch of dried rose hips, a lump of what might once have been soap, now ambiguously geological. You boil rainwater and pretend it's a feast. Elska builds a rain catcher out of scrap wood and a bent plate. It works surprisingly well. She insists on calling it the Fountain of Elska. Tomas adds a sign, "Do not anger the spirit within." Mercy drinks from it anyway. That night, thunder rumbles in the distance. You lie awake wondering if wells can die, if the earth can get sick from too much grief. You think about the man Birdman found slumped near the cooper's shed, the one whose eyes begged for something nameless. You think about the cellar beneath the chapel, the one you still haven't opened. In the morning, the rain catcher is full. You treat it like wine, sip sparingly, swirl it in your cup. Elska makes a toast to hydration. Tomas adds to not melting. You clink cups. Mercy tips hers over. You forgive her. She's still processing the feather. Later, you venture into the woods to look for more water. You find a stream. Small, almost hidden, but clear. You fill 3 bottles and a boot. On the way back, you see something carved into a tree. A symbol. 3 circles inside a square. Not one you know. You rub it with your thumb. It feels recent. You decide not to mention it. Not yet. Back home, Belle appears just before sunset. She holds a bottle of her own. "Trade?" she asks. You nod. You swap bottles. You pretend not to notice that hers is sealed with wax shaped like a rat. You all drink slowly. No one dies. That's a win. That night, you write in the book. The water betrayed us, but the rain forgave us. You draw the well, black and silent. You draw the stream, winding and hopeful. And you draw mercy, drinking from a goblet like a queen. Caption: unshaken, unparched, unimpressed. You wake to drums. Not actual drums, of course, but something close. Rhythmic thumping, slow and deliberate, echoing up the street like a heartbeat you can't see. You sit up, pulse matching the sound. Tomas is already at the door, his knife in hand. Elska is peeking through the shutters, whispering to Mercy, who is audibly uninterested. Then you see them. Robed figures. A line of them. Coming down the main road barefoot, backs bent. They're chanting. And hitting themselves. Not with clubs or whips, just thin ropes, knotted and soaked in something that glistens darkly. Flagellants. You've heard stories. Groups of them, wandering from village to village, crying out for repentance, bleeding in the name of salvation, begging forgiveness from a God who may or may not be home. You didn't think they were real, or still alive. The leader wears a white hood, face hidden. He carries a banner stitched from old robes. It reads, "Pain is the door." Elska squints. Should I be writing this down? Tomas shakes his head. Don't even blink too hard. They pass slowly. 20 of them, maybe more. Some chant in Latin, others hum. One weeps audibly. As they move, people appear. From doors, from shadows, silent spectators. You hadn't realized how many were still here. A dozen, maybe 2. They've all been hiding in corners, under stairs, behind old prayers. Now they come to see the show. You don't join them. You stay in the doorway, watching with the kind of curiosity that feels like a sin. The leader stops in the square. He raises his arms. The chant ceases. Then, softly, he speaks. We walk because we are guilty. No one answers. He continues, we bleed because we are forgiven. Still silence. Then, you have not bled, you have not been seen. He turns. Looks directly at you. You don't flinch. Barely. He walks toward your door. Tomas steps forward. The man stops just shy of the threshold. Do you fear the sickness? He asks. You nod. He tilts his head. Then join us. Let your back open like the sky. Elska coughs. Loudly. The man blinks. Mercy growls. You say, we already bled, we just didn't invite an audience. He watches you a moment longer, then turns. Walks away. The group follows. One leaves a smear of blood on the cobblestones. They vanish down the far road. As quickly as they came, the onlookers drift back to their corners. Tomas exhales, I hate sermons without snacks. You agree. Elska draws the whole scene in chalk, labeling each figure the Hertie bunch. Mercy lies across the banner drawing and closes her eyes. That evening, you find a bundle at the chapel door. A white cloth. Inside herbs, a crust of bread, and a small note. Your pain will find you, be ready. You burn the note. Keep the bread. Belle appears at twilight. She watched from the bell tower, of course. I used to think they were heroes, she says, all that devotion. You ask what changed. She holds up a hand, reveals a scar across her palm. They make better stories than leaders. You write in the book. They came singing, left bleeding, we remained. You draw the banner. Then tear out the page. Some things don't need to be remembered. You find the cat first. Not Mercy, she's accounted for, curled in her usual corner, dreaming of revolution. This one is new, small, black, thin as a curse. It's sitting in the middle of the chapel aisle like it owns the place, like it's holding mass. You pause. The air inside is cooler than outside, sharper, as if the building remembers what it was built for, even if no one else does. The cat stares at you, doesn't blink. Then it meows. Once. Like a summons. You take one step inside. Then another. Father Jarek's old blanket still lies folded at the front pew. His cross is gone. You haven't seen him in days. You wonder if he slipped quietly into the cellar, or the ground, or someone else's dream. The cat meows again, then trots forward. You follow. It leads you around the altar, past the crumbling lectern, and behind the choir pit, to the cellar door. Still shut, still barred. You sit beside it, and so does the cat. Together, you listen. Nothing. But the cat's ears twitch. You don't ask it questions. You already know it wouldn't answer. Back at the house, Elska is baking. Sort of. She's mashed together flour, water, herbs, and what might be chalk dust into what she calls plague cakes. You take one bite, it fights back. Tomas arrives with firewood and an old lantern he found in the granary. He says he's going to fix it. You believe him. Mercy eyes the black cat from across the room. There's a tense moment. Then the cat blinks once and turns away. Mercy licks her paw like she didn't just lose an unspoken duel. You name the new cat Mercy too. Elska insists on Mercy also. Tomas prefers Regret. The cat ignores all of you. That evening, Belle visits. She brings 2 figs and a piece of string. She ties the string to Mercy 2's tail. The cat accepts this indignity with saint-like patience. Then she says, "There's a rumor." You wait. Someone saw a man in the woods. You raise an eyebrow. A real one, walking, talking, clean. You all exchange looks. Clean is suspicious. Belle adds, "He had books." Now you're interested. The next morning, Tomas volunteers to investigate. Elska insists on going too. You stay behind. With the cats. And the cellar door that keeps whispering nothing. You spend the day organizing Birdman's book. You add pages. Sketch Mercy 2 with a tiny halo and the caption, "Judgment Incarnate." You write. Some cats come with omens, others bring silence, this one brings decisions. You also write. There are doors that don't open, and some that shouldn't. You glance at the cellar. Still barred. Still quiet. For now. That night, you light 2 candles. Mercy sits between them like a furred sphinx. Mercy 2 curls in your lap. The town is quiet. Belle hums in the distance. You close your eyes and dream of a cat walking into fire and coming out with answers. The sky is too blue today. Not poetic blue, not hopeful blue, just wrong. Too clean, too empty, like the heavens have been scrubbed free of meaning, and all that's left is color without context. Elska says it looks like a bowl turned upside down, trapping all of you underneath. Tomas mutters something about omens and stays indoors. Even the cats are twitchy. Mercy has taken to staring at walls that don't do anything, and Mercy too keeps knocking things off shelves like it's an exorcism. You spend the morning blinking at the horizon, half expecting it to blink back. It doesn't. The blue makes everything else look fake. The chapel, with its leaning bell tower, looks like it was painted by someone who's never seen a church. The trees seem too sharp, their leaves too loud. The cobblestones feel staged, like part of a play where everyone forgot their lines. You wonder if you're dreaming. Then you step on a splinter and remember, real. Definitely real. Belle appears near noon. She doesn't speak right away. Just stands in the square, looking up. After a long silence, she says, "I think the sky's forgotten us." You nod, Or it's trying to pretend we never happened. She hums once, not her usual melody, a new one, slower. You ask if it's a funeral song. She says, no, just a lullaby for something that hasn't died yet. Tomas returns in the afternoon. His boots are muddy, his coat torn. He looks like someone who's seen a story and decided not to tell it. You ask what he found. He says, a man by the stream. And he was reading. You wait. And he didn't look up, not once, just turned the pages, like the world was still behaving. Elska asks, did you talk to him? Tomas shakes his head. Didn't seem right. He looked safe, and I didn't want to ruin that. That night, the air feels lighter. Or maybe you're just tired. The cats sit on opposite sides of the room, mirroring each other like twin questions. Elska draws constellations on the ceiling using coal and sticky old bread. She names them after things she misses: butter, singing, her left shoe. Tomas sharpens a spoon into something vaguely heroic. You write in the book. The sky is pretending. We are pretending back. You sketch it, an enormous blue dome with tiny windows. Behind one, Mercy II frowning at God. Just before sleep, you step outside. Look up again. Still blue. Still wrong. But in the far corner, just above the chimney line, you spot one tiny cloud. It's shaped like a fish. Or a boot. Or maybe a very surprised cat. You wave to it. It doesn't wave back. But you sleep better anyway. You don't dream of the plague that night. You dream of cheese. A feast table stretches before you, absurdly long and wobbling slightly under the weight of every cheese known, and some you suspect were invented by your subconscious on the spot. Wheel-sized brie with gold leaf, goat cheese that glows faintly, a cheddar carved into the shape of a small boat. Belle is there, using crackers like oars. Elska rides a Parmesan horse. Tomas is asleep under a fondue fountain. Mercy judges silently from a throne of stacked camembert. You wake up chewing your blanket. Your stomach growls like it's possessed. You raid your stash. One apple bruised, half a crust of bread dubiously edible, a sliver of dried meat that smells faintly of regret. Elska joins you, bleary-eyed. She says, I dreamed I wasn't hungry. You both laugh, for longer than the joke deserves. Then she asks, do you think the plague dreams too? You blink. Then nod. Probably about crowds. Tomas appears mid-morning with dirt on his boots and a wild look in his eyes. He holds up a single onion. It's real, he says. Elska gasps. You all gather around, as if he's holding a holy relic. He found it sprouting behind the abandoned mill, under a pile of broken pots. It winked at me, he insists. You roast it carefully, share it evenly, it tastes like the best meal in years. You write it in the book. Today we shared an onion. It didn't save us, but it reminded us we're alive. You sketch it glowing, haloed, surrounded by tiny kneeling stick figures. Mercy II adds a claw mark to the margin. You take that as a blessing. That afternoon, you nap on the chapel steps. The sun is gentle for once. No blue tricks, no blinding lies, just warmth. You drift off. You dream again. Not of cheese this time, but of conversations. Old friends, family, strangers you've never met. They sit at a fire, drinking something warm, talking about everything except death. Someone offers you a seat. You sit, and it feels like belonging. You wake with Belle standing over you. Good nap, she asks. I met some ghosts, you say. Were they polite? They had tea. She nods, that's rare. You both laugh. That evening, you all gather in the square. No reason. Just because. Elska plays a game she invents on the spot involving pebbles, rules that change mid-round, and shouting plague reverse at random. Tomas wins. He has no idea how. Belle sings softly, a tune that sounds like an echo learning to walk. You lie back on the stones, looking at the sky. It doesn't look so empty tonight. There's still no answer waiting in the stars. But there are patterns, again. And that's enough. You write one last line before bed. Today we dreamed of cheese and ghosts and sitting. Then you draw a table. And leave space beside it, just in case someone new arrives. It starts with a crow. A single one. Fat, black, feathered like a thundercloud in a hurry. It lands on your window ledge at dawn, looks you dead in the eye and caws exactly once. Then it waits. Mercy is instantly offended and fluffs into attack mode. Mercy too joins her, which is alarming because Mercy too usually avoids participation unless absolutely necessary. The crow caws again. You throw it a crumb of bread. It doesn't eat it. It blinks. Then it flies off. You could swear it winks. This begins your new obsession, learning to speak crow. You justify it as a coping mechanism, or a survival skill, or possibly a side effect of eating that onion too quickly yesterday. You begin with mimicking sounds. Caws clicks, low growls. Elska joins in immediately, declaring herself Crow High Priestess. Tomas watches silently for an hour, then adds his own deep guttural caw that scares both cats and himself. Belle refuses to participate, but she does leave a feather at your door that night. No note. Just a feather. You start noticing them more. The crows. At first, just one or two, perched on rooftops, on broken signs, on the chapel's cracked steeple. Then 5, then 7. They never make much noise. They just watch. You gather offerings. Shiny things. Buttons, beads, a coin that might not be currency anymore. You lay them on a flat stone near the well, which is still full of black water and bad decisions. The next morning, one item is gone. In its place, a small piece of red glass. You call it a trade. Elska calls it a treaty. Mercy calls it witchcraft, probably. You start talking to the crows. Not just cawing, but full conversations. Should I go to the cellar? Is Tomas hiding something? Do you know what happened to the man at the stream? They never answer. But sometimes, one tilts its head like it's considering your question. Sometimes they fly in patterns, loops, circles, the occasional dramatic swoop. You begin keeping notes. You write in Birdman's book. Day 3 of crow negotiations. No verbal response, but one dropped a twig shaped like a letter Y, possibly yes, possibly a threat, possibly a coincidence. You sketch the crow. You give it a hat. Caption, Ambassador Beak, probably doesn't have a name, might have secrets. One evening, Belle joins you on the roof. She brings no snacks, no stories. Just sits beside you. After a while, she says, they followed me for days before I came here. You look at her. She's not smiling. She continues, I thought they were leading me somewhere, but I think they were just waiting to see if I'd die interestingly. You nod slowly. Have you asked them? She shrugs. They don't like questions, just company. You watch the sky together. 10 crows now. Watching back. That night, you dream you're flying. Not high, just above the rooftops. The crows fly beside you. They say nothing. But they don't leave. You wake with a feather in your hair. No open window. Just the cats. And a sense that something has shifted. You write. Today I became less human and more crow-adjacent. It feels like progress. Then you sketch yourself with wings. Half-formed, hopeful, ready. The baker's son returns on a Wednesday. Of course it's a Wednesday, the sort of day that tastes like wet paper and unresolved tension. You're cleaning your rain catchers, Mercy too perched on your shoulder like a pirate's intern, when you hear boots in the mud. Not hesitant, not limping, just walking, like it's still normal to do that. You look up, and there he is, grown, changed, and very much real. You last saw him the second week the sickness took hold. He'd been red-faced, wild-eyed, lugging sacks of flour like they were children. You remember him shouting something about aving the bread, not the town. Then he vanished. Now he's taller, thinner, wears a traveler's cloak, patched and weathered. A scarf covers the lower half of his face, but his eyes are unmistakable, too serious for someone his age, too tired to fake otherwise. He doesn't wave, just nods once. Then he says, "I brought something." You gather in the square. Elska treats it like a formal audience. Belle descends from her tower. Tomas sharpens a knife, subtly. The baker's son, his name is Marek, though no one has called him that in weeks, kneels and unties his satchel. He pulls out a book, bound in red leather, a small bag of salt, a dried fish, a sealed letter with no address, and a glass bottle filled with what looks like fireflies, though that's clearly impossible. You don't ask questions yet. He holds up the book. "It's a journal," he says, "from the next town over." You ask what happened there. He says nothing, just hands it to you. Later, you read it aloud by candlelight. It begins. "To the last to read this, we sang, we made bread, we tried not to cough." You read through stories, short, clipped entries of life at the edge, gardens failing, cats disappearing, someone trying to invent new soup, a wedding held in silence. Then, "The priest said if we rang the bell loud enough, heaven would hear us. He rang it until he bled. We heard nothing back. And finally, there are 5 of us now. We do not ring the bell, we whisper. It feels more honest." You close the book. Tomas breathes out, "So, not better then." You shake your head. Marek stays with you that night. He doesn't talk much, refuses to say where he's been, says he followed the wind. Elska suggests he's been adopted by ghosts. He doesn't correct her. Mercy too keeps her distance. Mercy stares at him for 2 full hours. He stares back. Eventually, they blink simultaneously. A truce. You ask about the letter. He hands it to you. The wax seal breaks easily. Inside. "You are not alone. We heard the bell, we heard the silence. Keep both." No signature. No clue where it came from. But something in you eases. You tuck it into Birdman's book. Under today's entry, the boy returned, taller, quieter, full of stories he won't tell. You draw a loaf of bread with a sword through it. Caption, "The baker's son, still rising." That night, you all sit by the fire. Marek watches the flames, like they're speaking directly to him. When asked if he'll stay, he says, "For a while." Elska offers him a plague cake. He eats it without flinching. Respect earned. Before bed, he places the bottle of glowing light on the windowsill. You ask, "What is it?" He shrugs. "Hope," he says, "or trickery, hard to tell in jars." You leave it there. Let it glow. Let it watch the town sleep. Let it remind the dark that someone came back. You find it the next morning by the stable, half buried in straw and yesterday's regrets. A door. Not a metaphoric one, not a spiritual one. A real wooden, iron-banded door, horizontal in the earth where no door should be. It's old, damp, smells like mushrooms and forgotten warnings. Elska discovers it first, of course. She's digging for turnips and nearly breaks her toe on the handle. Either we found a secret pantry, she announces, or an entrance to the underworld. You gather Tomas, Belle, Merrick, and both cats. Because if you're opening mysterious doors, you might as well have an audience. It takes effort. The hinges complain, the wood groans, something snaps in protest. But eventually, it creaks open. Inside, straw, dust, a ladder, and a smell that says it's been a long time since this place mattered. You lower a lantern. The light flickers. You descend. It's not a cellar. Not exactly. It's a house. Or the ghost of one. Stone walls, a collapsed cot, a few broken dishes, a chair that disintegrates when you touch it. There are carvings on the walls, symbols you don't recognize, circles within circles, lines that curve like rivers, a spiral etched again and again like someone was trying to dig into thought itself. On the far wall, scrawled in charcoal, "Still here, still here, still here." Elska whispers, "Was this someone's hiding place?" You whisper back, "Or a forgetting place." In a corner, you find a bundle. Cloth-wrapped, tied with twine. Inside, a book. Pages brittle, ink faded, but legible. Entries, notes, scribbled dreams, recipes for vinegar cures and honey compresses. A diagram of a house where all the doors open into each other. One entry. "They forgot my name, so I wrote it everywhere, but paper burns, wood rots, only stone stays." Another. "If someone reads this, tell the cats I meant well." You feel something tighten in your chest. You take the book. You promise. Back upstairs, the air feels different. Clearer. As if the house had been holding its breath for a century and finally let it out. You sit together in the grass. No one speaks for a while. Then Belle says, "There are more like that." Tomas nods. Buried houses, hidden rooms, everyone wanted to disappear. Elska, chewing on a dandelion stalk, adds, "We should mark them, make a map." You agree. The world may not remember these spaces, but you will. That evening, you begin drawing a map of the town. Its houses, alleys, wells, bell towers. And now, the house under the straw. You label it the regret room, not as a warning, as a reminder. You write in Birdman's book, "We found a door that opened inward. It led nowhere, and that was enough." You sketch the ladder, the carvings, the phrase on the wall, repeated 3 times. "Still here, still here, still here." You draw Mercy 2 sleeping on top of the old book, one paw resting gently on the binding. That night, the lantern light glows softer. The wind makes no arguments. And the house above and below breathes as one. By now, your feet know where not to step. The cracked tiles near the bakery, the moss-slick stones behind the granary, that one puddle in the square that never dries and probably contains a portal to a less hygienic dimension. You step around them instinctively, balancing your water bucket and a pouch of crushed herbs, when you catch yourself thinking without fear. Not without caution, but without fear. It's strange. You almost miss the panic. Almost. The town feels less like a tomb and more like a sketch in progress. Signs of life reappear slowly. Smoke from chimneys. Bread in windows burnt, but unmistakably bread. A bundle of dried herbs tied with blue string hanging on the chapel door. Someone's trying again. It might be you, or Tomas, or everyone at once. You don't ask. You just nod at the signs like they're old friends returning from exile. In the afternoon, you take a walk. No goal, no destination. Just motion. Belle joins you silently. She hands you a piece of sugar-hardened apple. You chew in companionable silence. You pass by houses you'd forgotten were there. One has a fence of old brooms. Another has a door covered entirely in feathers. Another still has a sign that reads, "Closed due to bees." You do not investigate further. You stop at a house near the woods. You hadn't noticed it before, not really. Its walls are leaning, the garden overrun. But in the doorway sits a boy. Maybe 8, maybe 10. He holds a stick like it's a scepter and stares at you as if you've wandered into his realm. You wave. He doesn't. Instead, he asks, "Are you the king?" You blink. Belle says, "Obviously." You nod, "But I'm not in charge of taxes." He frowns, then nods solemnly, "Good, taxes are rude." You learn his name is Alan. He lives alone. Or possibly with an invisible aunt, he's unclear. He says the plague skipped his house because he sleeps upside down. You decide not to challenge that logic. He shows you a collection of snail shells, one extremely flat frog, and a pair of socks he believes are magical. You invite him to dinner. He accepts, only after extracting a promise of no cabbage-based surprises. That evening, the table is full. You, Belle, Tomas, Elska, Merrick, Alan. Mercy sits in the middle, like a centerpiece. Mercy, too, monitors the door. Soup snores in the alley, her dreams audible and dramatic. You eat lentils, apples, and a stew that tastes better than expected, possibly because of the magic socks hanging nearby. Alan tells stories that may or may not involve dragons disguised as bakers. Elska asks if he's a real wizard. He shrugs, "Depends who's asking." Afterward, you sit on the roof. Alan points out stars that don't exist. Belle names them anyway. You listen to the quiet. The real kind, not the dreadful kind. The restful, everyone is still breathing kind. You think about how much space one life takes up, even when it's silent. You think about the boy with the stick scepter, and the house full of feathers, and the door that said, "Still here." You whisper it to yourself. Still here. And the wind doesn't argue. You don't notice the bones at first. You're walking through the market square with Alan. He's explaining how invisible frogs help predict weather patterns when your foot catches something. Not a stone. Not a bottle. Something lighter. It clinks. You pause, look down. A finger bone. Clean, dry, small. You stare at it for a long moment. Alan stares too. "Probably not mine," he says. You nod. "I'd imagine you'd notice." You brush the dirt away. More bones. A hand, a jaw. Fragments of something once upright. Elska appears, holding a spoon. "Found another skeleton?" she asks, not even surprised. You nod. Belle crouches beside it, pulling back her sleeve to reveal a piece of charcoal. She begins to sketch. You find them more and more now. Not fresh. Not grotesque. Just bones. In corners, beneath floorboards, in attics sealed since the first bell rang. Some wrapped in cloth, others curled as if still dreaming. You stop reacting. You start stepping over them. You hold a brief burial. No prayers. Just a hole, a stone, and Belle humming something sad but not too sad. Elska plants a flower on one. Tomas makes a cross from cutlery. Alan suggests adding a sign, "Here lies someone very quiet." You approve. That night, you sit beside Birdman's book. You write. We are surrounded by the once alive, and somehow we don't mind. You draw Mercy too curled in a skull, like it's a bowl. Caption: unmoved, unstartled, uninvited. You add, the dead no longer scare us, the living do. Later, Merrick asks, does it feel wrong, not burying everyone? You think. Then say, if we buried every ghost, we'd never stop digging. He nods. You both go back to peeling onions. The bones become part of the landscape. Elska uses a rib as a garden marker. Tomas sharpens one into a tool. Olin fashions two into flutes and names them Wheeze and Rattle. You don't stop him. You just ask him not to play during dinner. One morning, you find a full skeleton seated at the well. It's posed. Legs crossed, back straight, skull tilted slightly as if listening. There's a note in its hand. It reads, waiting for someone to answer. You take it gently. You don't mock it. You write back. You leave your letter tucked into the skeleton's lap. It says, we're still here, still listening, still unsure. But we make soup, we sing, we name cats, we mourn you without panic. Come by the fire, if your bones still wander. You think that's fair. That night, the wind blows through town and does not knock anything over. The moon rises, full and soft. The bones remain. So do you. You find the hammer in a drawer you don't remember opening before. It's small, rusted, feels like it belonged to someone who used it often and with care. You hold it for a long time before realizing what you want to do. Rebuild something. Not everything. Just something. You begin with a bench. It used to sit near the bakery, half-rotted, sagging under the weight of better times. You drag what's left of it into the square. Tomas joins you wordlessly. He brings nails. Elska brings enthusiasm. Merrick brings a plank that might have been a door, or a bed, or a very flat coffin. Together, you hammer. It's uneven, a little crooked. It creaks ominously when sat upon. You love it instantly. Next comes a window. One of the chapel's panes is cracked, a spiderweb of glass and time. You replace it with colored scraps from Bell's Tower. Red, green, one piece that glows blue when the sun hits it just right. You call it stained glass, even if the stains are from soup. Word spreads. People begin emerging. Timidly, quietly. You see faces you thought had fled, others you'd never seen at all. A woman from the West End sweeps the square without being asked. A man with one eye fixes the roof of the old inn. A child delivers eggs. Real eggs. From a chicken that looks mildly haunted. You nod at each new participant. No speeches. Just tools and time. Olin draws blueprints on old napkins. A garden here, he says, and maybe a duck pond for ducks. You ask, do we have ducks? Not yet. You agree this is not a problem. That evening, you hold a meeting. It is not formal. No one votes. But Bell sings, and Tomas tells a joke with no punchline, and Elska recites a poem she made up on the spot involving cats, bones, and soup. It's the best meeting you've ever attended. You write in Birdman's book, today we rebuilt a bench, tomorrow maybe the sky. You draw a crooked bench with 5 stick figures on it, one cat on the backrest, one ghost under it. Caption, still uncomfortable, still standing. You walk the streets at dusk. Not patrolling, just walking. Checking what remains. You pass the well, the bones still sit there. But now, they wear a hat. You leave a flower beside them. Back home, the table is set. Not grand, but full. Soup snorts once, then dozes off against a wall. Mercy purrs. Mercy too bites your sleeve gently, like a reminder. Elska raises a cup to what's next. Merrick raises his to what's not yet. Tomas raises a spoon to what still works. You raise nothing. You just look around and think. This is the rebuild. Not perfect, not finished, but here. You wake to laughter, real laughter. Not nervous, not cracked, not the breathless kind that comes after too much bad news. Just joy. You sit up slowly. It's coming from the square. When you step outside, the world feels different. Same stones, same air, but there's something in it now. A rhythm. The clink of tools, the shuffle of brooms, the occasional argument over turnip placement. People are working, talking, living. Not many, maybe 20 total. But enough. Enough to feel like a village again. Elska is organizing a parade. A one-person parade. She marches around the square with a stick banner that reads, "Survived-ish." Tomas claps half-heartedly. Belle tosses her a fig. Mercy too glares from a windowsill. You pass the rebuilt bench. Now polished, less crooked, decorated with chalk doodles of birds and onions. You sit. Just for a moment. Just to feel the weight of stillness that isn't dread. You close your eyes. You dream. Not of fire, not of bones, not of the empty. You dream of a meal. A long table. Everyone there. Birdman nodding at your notes. Ludwig with an onion crown. Father Jorik humming off-key. The baker's wife laughing. The girl in the cellar eating soup without apology. Even the bones from the well sit at the end, quietly sipping air. You wake smiling. You write in Birdman's book. We rebuilt a town using regret, laughter, and excessive herbs. You add. There are still rooms we won't open, still names we forget, still aches that come at night. But also jokes, cats, salted butter, forgiveness. You sketch the town. Not perfectly. Just honestly. That night, you all gather. No ceremony, no cause. Just because the air is warm. Belle sings one last time. Olin juggles eggs, drops 2, declares it performance tragedy. Merrick cooks something resembling bread. Mercy permits one head scratch. Soup snorts like a drum roll. You sit on the rebuilt bench. You don't speak. You don't need to. You're here. The fire burns low. Conversations soften, trailing into sighs and murmurs. The stars peek through the dark, gentle and familiar now, no longer ominous, no longer distant. Just there. You lean back, feel the cool air brush your face. A cat climbs into your lap, you don't check which one. You close your eyes. You think of everything that came before: plague, silence, ash, fear. And somehow, everything that followed. Soup and songs. Letters never sent. Dreams shaped like cheese and fig trees. People lost, people found. And the fragile, fumbling miracle of not being alone anymore. Your breath slows. The bench creaks gently beneath you, wood remembering what it's like to hold someone. The wind carries a bell's echo from far off, or maybe it's just your memory. Either way, it's kind. You smile. Not everything was rebuilt. Not everything needed to be. But some things did. And you were one of them. Let that be enough. Let that be your lullaby. The town sleeps now. And so do you.